Hello everyone, I had a question in our Discord channel for implementing your own character into VerticalThird. I thought it'd be a good idea to start a video series for this, and it actually will be a bit of the behind the scenes footage for creating the online version of our example game. There will be two versions of the example game, one of which will be the default or out of the box version of VerticalThird. The other version will be a bit of a playground for us to implement some marketplace assets and some different design ideas. Part of the series will be implementing on the Paragon characters to VerticalThird. I think they are a great starting point as they have a range of animations to play with from a kit design perspective. We will be able to retarget many of these animations between different characters. And for the Paragon version, I like to have a somewhat challenging co-op experience for this, but we will see how it grows and what direction we take it to. Best of all, they are free, so that is a pretty nice perk. All of the Paragon characters are on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. They're all free, you just still have to go through the purchase process for them. But then they'll pop into your library. The character we're starting with is Muriel. You might need to check at the very top, show all projects, find your project. At the time of this recording, VerticalThird is only usable with Unreal Engine 5. From here we can open up our project. I get pretty particular about my folder structure. It does make a pretty big difference down the road, so I like to make a marketplace folder. This does add a lot of time when you're importing lots of different assets, and even more time when you have Perforce enabled or some sort of source control. For some reason, Unreal does not like to move folders very quickly, but I do think it's worthwhile to, when you import something from the marketplace, put it into the marketplace folder. And unfortunately, if you try to do this outside of the engine, all the references will be broken and it'll be just a mess and it'll waste your time. So you have to kind of do it through the engine itself. This is a bit more of an advanced comment here, but when you get to packaging your game, it can be very useful to have an easy way to include or exclude different folders. So what you just saw me do was take the Paragon Muriel folder and drag it into the marketplace folder and click move. Once that completed, it didn't actually delete the folder, and this is because we have to right click on it and click fix up redirectors. From there I can right click on the old Paragon Muriel folder and click delete. Here sometimes it's just good to make sure you can open up the character and make sure the proper materials are set and the references are correct. The first thing we need to do is set up an IK rig for both Muriel and our default mannequin. In the Paragon Muriel folder, I want to make a new folder and name it Custom Files. Now I'm going to right click into the empty space and go to the animation category and click on IK rig. From here you choose your skeletal mesh, which you can choose any of the Muriel versions. I chose the Muriel GDC version. I'm going to label it ikrig_Muriel. Now we can open this up and get started on establishing our chains. If you're coming from Unreal Engine 4, you'll probably notice by now that the retarget system is different in Unreal 5, and this is how we set them up. We're going to add our first chain, label it head, and select the neck 01 and end on head. We will repeat this for spine and start with spine 01, ending on spine 03. And just to note, if any of your characters have more bones, so maybe have 5 spine bones, you would just select the first one and go all the way to the 5th one. Next up is arm_left, and we're going to choose the clavicle left and go all the way down to the hand left. We will repeat this for the arm right, choose the clavicle right, and go down to the hand right. Now we're going to do leg_left, choose from the first menu thigh_left. Second menu, go down to either your foot or the foot ball for the left side. And we will repeat this process for the right leg. Now we'll be doing this for the fingers, but it's a little quicker to do the fingers on the left-hand side in the bone selection menu. I start at the top with the index finger, selecting 01 down to 03, right click and choose the bottom option. This will label it appropriately and we can just hit OK. I'm going to repeat this process for the middle finger, the pinky, the ring, and the thumb. Note that all these first ones are the left side, and then we'll have to repeat this for the right side. The final thing we have to do is right click on the pelvis and set as retarget root. Now we need to repeat these exact same steps for the default mannequin. In our VerticalThird folder, I'm going to right click and create a new folder called database_new game. I'm going to go to the animation category and create a new IK rig. This time choosing a default mannequin. Again, you can choose any one, it all works the same. And we will label this IK rig underscore mannequin. Now we can open this up and repeat the same process from before. It's identical to the way we just went through it with the Muriel character. The chain name should always be the same for each character, but then where the bones start and ends can differ between characters. The light explanation here is that the Unreal 5 system is taking the measurements between the length of each bone and interpolating them somehow for each different animation, so you get a roughly the same look. Don't forget to click on the pelvis and set it to the retarget root. Now what I'm going to do is open up each IK rig just to have them available, and we can slot them into the top as tabs. Now in my database new game folder, I'm going to go to the animation category again and choose IK Retarget. We will choose the IK rig mannequin as the base because this is where we want to copy the animations from to the Muriel skeleton. I'm going to label this IK Retarget underscore mannequin underscore Muriel. Then we can open that up. I'm just speeding through this real quick, but I had forgot to set the feet in my versions to go all the way down to the ball instead of just the foot. Then in the target IK rig asset, we can select our IK rig Muriel. The first thing you'll notice is that we have to fix the pose. You can click edit pose at the top, and you can see the mannequin is in what's called A pose. We're going to have to fix that because Muriel is in like a modified A pose. It's not quite a standard A pose. And typically characters, their A pose can be a little bit different between characters. So we're going to have to, as close as possible, match the A pose to the mannequin. So with the actor offset, I'm actually putting that to 0 so they line up perfectly. And then I'm altering the scale so they get roughly the same character size. I'm doing this so we can, as best as possible, match the positioning of the mannequin. This will equal a better retargeted animation if we get the more accurate this is. In the top right, I'm going to make sure we enable snapping for rotation and set it to 5 degrees. You might have to differ this bit depending on your character you're changing, but for Muriel it worked at 5 degrees. And I moved the clavicle about 35 degrees. And then I make the elbows a little bit more flat so that the palms are facing the ground, and I rotate them 45 degrees. Also note that the limbs don't necessarily have to line up perfectly. They just have to be in the general same position. Because some character models are going to have longer arms, they will differ in size and position. You're just kind of trying to get that general idea and placement. Typically, your characters are mostly symmetrical, and if that's the case, make sure that whatever you do to the left side, you do the same to the right side. And so here, I could not use the rotation lock or rotation snapping, but I am reading the numbers on the rotation bar to try and get as closely as possible with the same thing on each side. For the thigh bones, I did a rotation around 5.5 degrees, and then a thigh twist of around 20 degrees. It was kind of locking me around 19.96, and that's perfectly fine. The more precise you are here will allow you to have a better result with the animations. So it's good to take a good amount of time, but don't overdo it at the same time. Finally, we can actually test some of the animations. So by double clicking on these animations, you can actually see them working in Passion. And you can tell they will differ a little bit depending on their size of their skeletal mesh and the size of their model, if they have long arms or small arms, but it gets close enough that it is a very reusable animation for that character. Now it's important to note that this is just previews in this window. We haven't actually exported or created these animations yet. I'm just speeding through a bunch of my animations here, showing that there's a good variety and they all actually working from the mannequin. You can also reset the location offset, and then they'll be side by side, and you can see them without overlapping. The first step to get your character model working with VerticalThird is to retarget the animation blueprint. So we can now close out of the retarget window and both the IK rigs. I'm clicking on the content folder and then clicking on the filter by the search bar and choosing animation blueprint. From here, I right click on the animation blueprint mannequin and choose retarget. From here in the top right drop down menu, we're going to choose the IK retarget mannequin underscore Muriel. We'll now change the folder where we're exporting these. So we're going to click the change, go to the Paragon Muriel folder, go to our custom files, and make a new folder called animation underscore retarget. Then we can click OK. In the search field, we're going to type in mannequin and replace it with Muriel. This will search for file names with mannequin and replace that word with Muriel. And finally, we can click retarget. And so what this has done specifically is take all the animations used in the animation blueprint and retarget them and create them new for Muriel. And now we can set up a custom character within VerticalThird that uses our VerticalThird character blueprint and uses our VerticalThird animation blueprint with your new character. We'll click on the content folder and search for player master. And we will drag and drop this into our database new game folder and click copy. And now we can rename this as character underscore player underscore custom. We will right click on the master and create a child class, as this is standard practice. And we can label this custom underscore Muriel. Now we'll double click the master to open it up. In a separate video, we're going to optimize this a bit more, but for now, we're just going to select all of these skeletal meshes, which we can filter a little bit better by going to the search window and typing in skeletal mesh. We're going to select them all and set their visibility to false and their hidden in-game to true. Note that I do not select the parent mesh, which is just labeled mesh, and I do not select any of the weapon slots, which is gun, left-hand item, and right-hand item. Leave those completely alone. From here, I'm going to search in the details panel in the top right. I'm going to search for visibility and turn it to off or disabled. Then search for hidden and turn actor hidden in game to true. For whatever reason, my viewport tab was missing here, so I had to go to window, viewport, and you can see that the mannequin is not showing at all right now. I'm going to clear the search text in the top right. Then I will add to the component list a design tool. You can search design space tool and add that component. Now we're going to go to the class settings. And from here we will go to the add drop down menu. Once again, we will search for design space tool and we can add that to this. From here we need to make sure we compile, and that'll allow us to load the functions. Once that's complete, we can search in the bottom left for tool, double click to open that up. We'll drag our new actor component design tool into the grid and connect it. Now we need to make a little bit of alterations to the mesh VFX component. You can click on the VerticalThird folder and search for mesh VFX. And we can open up the actor component mesh VFX. From here, I'm expanding the default category and going to the KitBash update interface function. We're going to add a small check here to allow us to pick and choose which cosmetics we want to enable for each of our characters. I right-clicked on this slot and promoted this to variable. I labeled it v3rd underscore mesh VFX underscore slot. I'm going to delete the one that's already on the grid, and then in the top right we're going to change this from a single variable to an array, which is a fancy word for list. Now we're going to set the default values, which we're going to add 14 different slots. We're going to set up each of these entries as exactly how they are set up in the list. So index 0 is the first option on the list, index 1 is the second option on the list, index 2, so on and so forth. We want to keep the same order of the index in the list. Now we can drag the variable out onto the grid. We will grab the pin and search for contain. We can reposition this a little bit so it's cleaner, and we will drag a line off the slot and connect it to this contain node, and we can create a reroute node to make it a little bit cleaner. Off the red pin of the contain node, we're going to search for a branch, which is a true or false statement, and connect these together. And if it's true, we will continue through. If it's not true, we will stop. All of this is effectively to give us some more control over what we allow. And in this case for Muriel, we're going to allow weapons to be attached. We need to reconnect some of the links that were broken. So we're going to right click on the grid and search for slot. We will scroll down all the way to the bottom and click this bottom one that says get slot. Then we will drag the screen over and reattach it to these two nodes you see here. With that in mind, we can now close this window. We will go back up to our database new game folder, and we can open up the custom Muriel blueprint. We will now go to the component window on the left, scroll all the way down to Mesh VFX, and click on that component, and you'll see we can find our newly created array. We are going to hit the trash can and add 2 slots, only putting in the main hand and offhand. Now we can close this window as well. Now we will go up to the folder level example display and open up this level. From here, we're going to go to the World Settings tab. If you don't have it listed on your right, you can go to Window and select World Settings. From here, we're going to expand the Game Mode section, and where it says Default Pawn Class, we're going to drag our Muriel blueprint, which is the child class of the master custom we just created, and put it into that slot. Then we'll double click to open it up, and we can set the skeletal mesh and the animation blueprint. We will click on the mesh component in the component list. Select the skeletal mesh that we set up, and in this case Muriel has 4 different copies, but they all use the same skeleton. And so we can use this, either one of these, or all 4 of these, or whichever one you want. Then we go over to the animation blueprint and make sure we set it to the new one we just created, which is animation blueprint _ Muriel. Now we can hit play and maximize the screen, and you'll see that Muriel is now working with VerticalThird's default animation kit, and you can walk around and test out things. We have just a few more things to set up. As you noticed at the bottom, there was no action kit set. And this is the red arrow you also see in the top left. So we will fix that right now. We will double click the Muriel character and open it up and scroll down in the component list to the Action Manager player. Once we've clicked on that, we will search for kit in the top right corner. And then in the default kit, we will search for basic and choose the Team Survival Basic Kit. We can click play once more, and we will have an action kit base at the bottom, which gives us the interact and sprint ability, and we can sit down to rest. Now, one point I want to make is all of the action kits that have been predefined, they are still using mannequin animations. So even though they have been copied over to Muriel, they still are not the same animation file, so you will have to create new animation montages for those things and reset up new abilities for them to work. I'm going to give a quick example on how to do that, and it's actually pretty easy. We can still just basically right click and retarget and copy and duplicate animations. We can click on the database folder and search for kit direct target. We will double click to open that up. From here, we're going to just reposition our window snap it into the top bar, and we're going to click the magnifying glass on the second option. From here, we're going to scroll down until we see the selected blue icon, and we will drag and drop that into the database new game folder. You may need to scroll down your left-hand side folder view, and we will click copy. For simplicity, we're just going to rename it, and at the very end, add _ Muriel. We will click the Action Kit tab at the top that we had opened earlier, and we can drag it out to reposition it. And then finally, we will click and drag the new action into the second slot. And you can see it'll update the file name to Muriel. Last thing to do is to duplicate the montage. All we have to do is double click on the data table, and then we will open up the appearance section. Then we can click on the magnifying glass by the animation montage. Now we will slide our data table up to the top. Then the montage highlighted in blue is what we need to right click on and go to retarget. This is the same process as before. We will choose our IK retarget and then re-enable the search to mannequin and the replace to Muriel, and change the folder directory into the marketplace, Muriel, custom, and animation folder. From here we can hit Retarget. Now we can click back to the action data table that we have docked at the top. And for the animation, we can click it and search for Muriel. Find it in the list and we can click on it. Now we can click play, head on over to the action kit testing section, pick up the action kit for direct target abilities, and note that we've only changed the left click here. So once we pick this up, we can actually go over to a target dummy and we can see our new character model is using the VerticalThird animations and the data table that we've set up. Now that we have the VerticalThird animations all set up, we can also tap into the Muriel animations that are included with the marketplace asset. We can hit stop and then go to our Muriel directory. We'll expand the Paragon Muriel folder, then click on the characters folder, and we will filter the search by animation sequence. You can browse through your animations to see which one you'd want to use for an action. And I'm going to use the consecrated cast, so all I have to do is right click and create a animation montage. From here we can save the montage. You can go into the montage itself and add sound effects and spell effects, all those type of things, but ultimately we just need to replace that montage into the action data table. Finally, when we go over to the action kit section in the example display world, we can see that our new animation is working as intended. There is one final step that we're going to add to this skeleton of this character. We need to set up all of the VerticalThird sockets and place them on the skeleton. Select the content folder in the folder view. Then we're going to go to the filters and go to animation, skeleton. I already have it turned on, so I just click the button. From here, we're going to open both the Muriel skeleton and the mannequin skeleton and have them side by side. I had to readjust my windows a bunch to get this to fit on my screen. On the mannequin side, we're going to search for socket. These are all the custom sockets I've created for VerticalThird and some of the effects within. So you need to make sure your custom character or the Muriel character has all of these sockets in place. Note that we need to label these exactly how they are on the mannequin for them to work properly. To add a socket, all you have to do is click on the bone and then right click and go down to add socket. For instance, if I wanted to add a socket to the head, I would click on the head bone and then right click and go down to add socket, and it would prompt me to rename it. In this example, it would be socket underscore head. You can repeat this process for each of these. If it's labeled right hand, put it on the right hand. If it's labeled left thigh, put it on the left thigh, etc. This took me about 8 minutes to do, so go ahead and do that now. Now I'm just making a few adjustments to the screen to make the actual skeleton a little bit bigger. We are going to copy some of the socket locations. This is a slight offset that I've established with the mannequins, so it may actually differ with the new character, and you have to play with it a little bit to actually get some of the weapons to show and equip properly. But for the sake of this example, we're just going to go through and copy some of the ones that are the location offsets for the mannequin and apply them to the Muriel character. Majority of these sockets will always have a 000 location offset, and you don't have to worry about them too much. The left hand item and right hand item, and the left hand FX and the right hand FX. These are some of the ones that we need to copy location from and paste it over to the Muriel character. Here I take the mannequin's left wrist item, copy the location, and paste that to the same thing on Muriel. This is the shield slot, effectively. I'm going to repeat this process for the left hand item, left hand FX, and the right hand item and right hand FX. And finally, the last slot is the camera true FPS. This one is another one you might have to experiment with for first person shooter perspective to work properly. Last but not least, the final thing to do is on our right side items, we're going to set the scale to -1. The cosmetic system, essentially, you only have to create one version of them, and that is the left side version, and it gets duplicated and mirrored to the other side, which is why we're going to do a -1 to create that effect. You can go down the list of the mannequin sockets and verify which ones are set to -1, but in general, it is all the right side items. So the right thigh, the right calf, the right hand FX item, and so on and so forth. I also reminded myself here on the true FPS socket that there is a unique rotation. So you can right click that rotation and copy it to the Muriel true FPS socket. We can now close all these windows and then click play. Maximize our window. Now if we want to roll around the world and go to the equipment section, we can equip all this gear and it's only going to affect our stats, not our visual look, with the exception of the main hand and offhand items because we made an exception for those. The first person camera I think needs a little bit more tweaking, but we can do that a little bit more over time. Note that this is only the first video of a series, so there will be more coming later, and we will set up some of the Paragon animations that the Muriel character comes with, which is some of the leaning effects and other things that would be nice to have for this character. That's it for this one. See ya!